It's been over a year since I've been using Autopilot, so it's definitely a time for review. It's probably needless to say that I'm obsessed with the self-driving technology, and it's exciting to see these technology get better over time, and which is why I use Autopilot feature 80 or more percent of my drive while I actively monitor what the car is doing. You're probably thinking, but we don't have FSD yet. That's almost impossible. Well, before we get to that, let's go through the two autopilot options that we have here in Australia. So the basic autopilot comes with the car, so you don't need to pay anything. It has two built-in features, so it can auto steer and it has traffic aware cruise control. So auto steer obviously can steer your car and keep your car in the lane, while traffic aware cruise control can maintain the distance with the car that's front of you, and if that car does a stop, your car will come to complete a stop, and when it goes, your car will also go. So the stop and go sort of works if you only have a car in front of you. So if you're crossing a light, set of lights, your car will just keep driving regardless of what the state of that light is. So you're going to be aware to press the brake or disengage the autopilot. And enhanced autopilot, which has cost of 5,100 AUD at the moment, that has additional features, so you can change lane. So if you push your stock up or down, car will do the lane change as long as there is another lane on your side. And you can enable traffic light and stop sign control beta as well. So that's a option you will have to go and activate. And it also has auto park and summon feature, which auto park I have used it multiple times, but summon and smart summon I have not used it that much. Now with all that, so the feature can be activated while you're on the road and where there are lane lines. To activate, you just pull the right stock once, and this was a recent update. So if you don't have that update, you still have to do the stock twice to activate the autopilot, and the car takes control of your vehicle after that. So you can still adjust the speed with the right scroll button on the steering wheel, and like you can press the pedal for the car to go faster if your car is going really slow, which I use quite often. And also the pedal can be used. So if you have the second option, enhanced autopilot, your car will sort of like try to slow down when you approach the traffic light as a precaution. So you can just nudge the car by pressing the pedal to keep going if you have a green light. And to turn off, you basically push the stock up, and your car will start to decelerate if you don't press the pedal. And also you can just press the brake pedal to stop the autopilot, or you can move your steering wheel with a slight bit of force and it will disengage. So I just wanted to touch on this recent update to allow single pull to activate autopilot, which I think is a significant improvement on the autopilot experience overall. So, and the reason being, it's just not single pull. Before the update, when you're on autopilot and you disengage, the car would actually go on a cruise control. So your car is actually going on whatever the max speed is set on it, and it was a little bit confusing. So now when you do that, your car actually will slow down and decelerate if you don't press the pedal, right? So now I think with single pull to engage autopilot, I think it's cleaner and also like safer and pretty explicit that if you turn on autopilot, you have the full control, not half with the cruise control behavior previously. So I highly recommend setting the single pull to activate autopilot feature. And now finally, just to talk about my experience, it is amazing to be behind the wheel when the computer is driving the car, even if it's just to keep you on the lane. I I know it doesn't look that interesting when it's just sort of like keeping on the lane and driving the car, but the task of just keeping you on the lane is quite a sophisticated task. So you can't just keep the car in the lane. It needs to first not collide with anything, second maintain its speed while keeping the driver and passenger experience smoother, right? So you also don't want the car to like accelerate and decelerate faster. It needs to be human-like, basically. So yeah, just even that feature alone to keep you on the lane is quite amazing to see. Now, obviously, Tesla Autopilot does more than keeping you on the lane. It can change lanes. It does path planning for you while you're on the motorway, and if you have enhanced autopilot. So for example, on this drive, Autopilot takes the exit on the ramp from the main highway, and I did give a turn signal there, but it was more like a precautionary. So even if I didn't give the turn signal, it would have still done the lane change. Take me off to the exit ramp. So yeah, basically once I'm on the road, I activate Autopilot as soon as I can. And when there are turns like left and right or any bends that it can't handle, I disengage the Autopilot, do the turn, and then re-engage it again and let the car drive, which is how I use it most of the time. And it does handle most of the bends on the road as long as it's not a massive turn. However, it's hard to predict which one it does and which one it doesn't. So, for example, there's a bend near the Epping station going towards Beecroft. Initially, when I first tried the car there, like Autopilot, it didn't handle that bend at all. But now it just drives through it fine. And I'm wondering what it would do if other drivers went there and tried to drive through that bend and see how it would handle. I'm not sure if it will be any different based on Andre Kapathi's talk, because the car actually sends the data to central system learns, and car sort of plays the game on a shadow mode, and if that's accurate, then that gets released to all the cars. So based on that logic, it should be fairly similar to other cars, but I'm not sure if anything has changed in recent years. Also notice another improvement which I'll like to touch on is the handling large intersections. So initially it did not handle the large intersection. If I go from the mid lane especially, it will always try to snap to the right lane, which was a bit weird. But now and then I will obviously I'm holding onto the steering wheel, so it can't do that turn, and I just keep driving on the same lane. So now with the recent update and probably, like I said, maybe more Autopilot hours on my car, it does handle the large intersection quite well. And again, one of the example is the intersection at the top of M2 on Pennant Hills Road. So when you cross that intersection, it's very large, and it handles that really well. And I did cross from the mid lane and just kept the car in lane the whole time. And I think this is the second last problem I would like to touch on, which is very annoying. It's the speed sign reading. And this problem occurs whether you are using Autopilot or not. So it will read this school zone speed sign and it will just keep warning you. And I do have the warning chimes on just because for road trips, or when I'm not on the area where I know where the cameras are and stuff. So I want that warning, and also just to better to just drive on the speed limit. So yeah, it happens when I'm on a highway, and previously, maybe 2 months ago, I was driving on a highway and it randomly picked up the road on the overhead bridge speed limit, and cars just slowed down massively, and then that was a bit scary. And then I just had to press the pedal to keep going, and then car sort of understood, okay, that the speed limit is actually what was set on the car, and it just kept driving. And I think that definitely got better. Even recently I went to Canberra and came back and had many of those crossings where a car handled that situation well, even though it read the wrong sign, and it picked up the wrong speed limits. Yeah, so that seems to have improved a little bit more, and would like to see a little bit accurate. And again, with the photons in and controls out approach, the cars will just learn as we drive more on like school zone hours and non-school zone hours, and drive through these various different signs. The car will learn itself. And I think the last problem I want to talk about is the highway safety, highly sensitive safety braking. It's also called phantom braking. It's basically your car abruptly tries to brake, and it's very like sort of scary. Yeah, like I think mostly for a passenger it's very scary, and also a driver it's confusing. The reason I don't want to call it a phantom braking is I think it's just doing really precision prediction on a lot of things. So for example, if a car is sort of like edging between the two lane lines and going back and forth, it sort of predicts that the car is going to come to our lane, and so does the phantom braking. And then also I've noticed if there's a large truck, it does that because the truck is pretty much covering the entire lane lines, and it thinks it's unsafe and it does brake. So to solve it, basically you judge the situation, and if you just keep pressing on the pedal, the car will drive fine. But obviously don't press the pedal if you're gonna hit another car. And yeah, so I guess with all that, the big question is Autopilot worth it? And I think it's totally worth it, and it will make your highway drive so much relaxing and less tiring. You can simply turn off Autopilot to do your lane change and then activate the Autopilot again. But is the enhanced Autopilot that cost like $5,100, is it worth it? And I guess that depends on your interest on this technology. And like if you, it won't make your drive significantly better than what Autopilot already does. However, if you have like if you have interest in technology, you have a lot more features to play with. You can do lane change on any streets, any streets with double lane, and you can just watch the car drive and just have some fun with it. And that's again totally depending on your speed. So yeah, that's my experience so far. And if you have made this far, let me know if you use Autopilot or if you use it just on highway, and what you think of the use cases right now, and do you think it's worth it. And thank you for watching this video.